I was gonna try and do that smolder, but I can't do that. It's just The Rock. It's The Rock and Gina Gershon in Bound. They got the top smolders. So I yesterday at time of recording, I had a really lousy day, like a really, really, really lousy day. It's not even worth getting into why. It's not like, oh, this specific horrible thing happened. It was just a bad day. And what I did to try and end the night on a pleasant note, because I still haven't gotten to see Liz since the stay-at-home orders went into effect. But I said, hey, would you watch something silly with me? And so we both fired up Jumanji: The Next Level and texted each other while we watched me at my place, her at hers. And I needed that between the company and a nice, silly movie and a sequel to something that I'd seen only recently. First things up front. Jumanji: The Next Level suffers from the usual issue of a lot of sequels to something that catches you off guard, which is that you can't be surprised by similar material twice. It's not going to catch you off guard the same way. And also in this case, it's not a true elevation or next step, despite the title. It's not a next level of the concept. One of the things that was really cool about Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle was that it was such an evolution of the concept from Jumanji. Why the heck are my nails this chipped? I just did this yesterday. The hell? Sorry. ADHD. Ooh, shiny squirrel. So it couldn't be the same kind of leap forward into new territory that Welcome to the Jungle was from the original Jumanji. And between that and a few other things, if it's a lesser film, like in a vacuum, it's only by a little. The main thing that it suffers from is it's not as fresh. It's not as unexpected. It's still a lot of fun, though. And the curveballs that they throw are fun and interesting. So, since this one's newer, I'm not going to presume as many people have seen it as with the previous one. But we've got the same people get wrapped up in with the game again, with the additional wrinkle of Spencer's grandfather and his friend getting accidentally sucked in. His grandfather played by Danny DeVito. His grandfather's friend played by Danny Glover. And so Danny DeVito ends up in Dwayne Johnson, and Danny Glover ends up in Kevin Hart. And that was fun right off the bat, because what was cool about that was it gave the two of them more of a chance to act, basically. Because in the original, and it worked, don't get me wrong, this is not a criticism of the original, but I say original, the one previous. In the previous film, the two of them were basically playing their stock film personas. You know, Kevin Hart was just Kevin Harting it up, and The Rock was being big and strong and smoldery and, a little bit insecure, because that's what Spencer's like, but, not a million miles away from what we usually see from him. I mean, Kevin Hart was very much just doing his usual shtick. Here, both of them have to change up how they're performing and what they're doing. And so suddenly Dwayne Johnson is talking like Danny DeVito and just going, huh? What? I'm in a game? Which is great. And then Kevin Hart, I loved this because it's established that Danny Glover's character speaks so slowly. Well, that is fascinating. And to have Kevin Hart slow down and downpitch his voice as opposed to doing the high energy, kind of almost screechy, like, what is going on thing up there. That was really cool to see. And that in and of itself was kind of fun right there. Martha does end up back in Karen Gillan, so that is pretty much the same, which is fine for me. Initially, Bethany is not pulled into the game, which means Jack Black is now playing the character of Fridge, who was Kevin Hart in the previous one. Also, interesting note, I felt like the real-world version of Fridge, Kevin Harted his out of the game performance a little bit more than had been the case previously. Or maybe I was just paying attention and watching for that more. I'm not sure. So Jack Black being Fridge, it works, and Jack Black gives a good performance, and he does a good job capturing Fridge's frustration, because Fridge is the big buff guy in real life. So last time he gets stuck in little tiny Kevin Hart, and this time he's stuck as roly-poly out of shape Jack Black. And there aren't a ton of fat jokes or anything, and I was fine with that. That was nice. And they avoided those last time too. What I will say, and this is nothing to do, again, it's not a bad performance. I will admit, just for me as a viewer, seeing Jack Black adopt the vocal affectations of African-American teenager made me a little uncomfortable watching. It's not awful. Much like when he played Bethany, he's balancing what he's doing very carefully so that it is a fully formed character and it's not a caricature. But even with that taken into account, it still made me a little uncomfortable to watch that. Not gonna lie. There's a couple of other of the curveballs that go on. I'll mention those in a little bit, because since I said this is a newer one, they are a little bit spoilery, so I'll save those. The villain's better in this. On paper, not really, but in practice, the villain is better because it's played by the same guy who played the Hound in Game of Thrones. So, yeah. Cool. That works. There's some cool recurring gags from the previous one. It also expects you to retain a certain amount of previous knowledge from the last film so that it can then subvert your expectations if you already think you know what you're going to get. So that was fun. They had a lot of fun with some of the ways in which characters lose the lives, because obviously we've got to get as many people down to only one life out of their 3 left as possible. So some of the way lives get lost is pretty amusing. It's just a good time. So I am going to talk about some of the latter end things, and they are a little bit spoilery if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, you've been warned. Here we go. So they start doing additional body swapping. So briefly, Fridge gets to be Ruby Roundhouse, gets to be Karen Gillan, and that also could have been really crass, but I kind of enjoyed that. I had fun with that. And then eventually Alex comes back. So that's Nick Jonas embodying Colin Hanks. So he comes back, and that cool, like it. And initially Bethany's a horse. Which is okay. I mean, that's just a random gag. But then later on, Bethany gets back into Jack Black, and that made me so happy. It like I said, his performance was fine, but something about him being like, "Oh my God, you guys, hey!" I'm like, "Oh, Bethany, I missed you so much, and I missed you being in Jack Black." Oh, it's seriously, it's like my new favorite thing ever. It's wonderful and ridiculous and amazing, and I love it. And even though we got a little of it, we didn't get a ton of it here, I was so happy to get it back when we did. And this is the other one I was saying. So when Awkwafina shows up, initially playing Spencer, fine, but then she gets to be Danny DeVito. And as much as I enjoyed The Rock being Danny DeVito, Aquafina being Danny DeVito, that's my new second favorite thing. Oh, she was so good. Just being so grumpy, you could tell she had a ton of fun working on his affectation and his and an approximation of his voice and his vocal delivery. Oh, it's so good. It's the contrast. It's awesome. And she does a really good job of capturing him. And also, Danny DeVito, especially in the tail end of the movie, when spoiler alert, they get out of the game. He has some really sweet moments as well, which was nice because I feel like Danny DeVito more often than not is cast to be very overblown as a character. So it was nice to have him end on some very down-to-earth moments. And I loved this. I'm not going to go into an entire thing with the subplot, but I love that at the end they go to a diner and he sits down to talk to the owner of the diner, who's Nora, played by Bebe Neuwirth. From the original film with Robin Williams, she was the aunt of the two kids. First of all, I just liked Bebe Neuwirth. I recognized her immediately. I did have to double check the credits to confirm that Nora was the name of her character in the first one. But it was. That was a cool nod. That's right up there with Alan Parrish was here. That just makes me happy. And this movie just made me happy. It's not as good as the first one, but it's a good time. And it was definitely what I needed last night. I can't even begin to tell you. So, Jumanji, The Next Level. You seen it? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts. I kind of tried to do a smolder there. It didn't quite... Nah. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something on down in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know the things to do. Like, subscribe, bell if you feel like it. Share this around, perhaps. Patreon, etc., etc., etc. But no pressure. We're laid back, we're relaxed, and you can just stop on by next time you need a break.